I'll see you in the land of Mordor. Death awaits you at the border. Pass on through the gates of fun, destroy the ring of power and wonder. Shadows increasing, beast throughout the land they see.
Hey Middle-earth role-playing fans, Roman Daisel here. Today we're going to be looking at the Lost Realm of Cardolan. Number 3700 in the series. This is my absolute favorite campaign module from this era. It's also the very first book I bought. I saw this at Endless Adventure. I had to buy it. Paid 18 or 20 bucks, can't remember exactly which. Got it home, unwrapped it, read it over, and then realized I can't play this. I don't have the rule books. So I had to save some money up because the boxed edition of the rules was a little more money. I think it was like 35, 40 bucks at the time. So I had to save some money for that when you only get paid $5 an hour. It's a little bit different. So this is my absolute favorite module. I love the cover art by Agnes McBride. It shows the last king of Cardolan, Ostoher, in the Barrow-downs facing off against Rogrog, the warlord of the Uruk-Angmar. So I absolutely love this photo. And I like the fact that at the time there was so little information about Cardolan and the sister states of Arnor, because Tolkien only mentions the kings of Arthedain and certain events, but never goes into much detail about Cardolan or Rudar, and this was definitely a step in that direction. So it says, for a time Cardolan stood at the forefront of resistance to the forces of the Witch King, mounting campaigns against its orcs, trolls, and easterlings. Those were the days of the Royal Army. Now only mercenaries and adventurers remain to block the advance of darkness. The conflict rages on, but it's a war of pillaging, burning crops, and inconclusive sieges, war with little honor and no glory. So you get to explore Tharbad, greatest surviving work of the Númenóreans, Loandair Aneth, Eldarian's ancient seaport, and Bered Grithlin, a mighty tower of the great houses in Cardolan. Now this thing includes 6 full-color maps, 4 pages of Cardolan regional maps, plus a 2-face city map of Tharbad, major layouts of Loandair Aneth, the towns of Siduri, Mitrith, the fortress of Argon, Bered Grithlin, and the palace of Thalion. You have the inhabitants of the Dunedain, the Eraidorians, the clansmen of Saarlan, the Befrayan, and the Northmen, and the Hobbits. So you get a huge mix. But let's go with the map first. So you get this map. It folds out, so there's, and it shows northern Cardolan with parts of the Shire, Breeland, and into the end of Ardoriath. Then it came with these 2 other maps. Okay, they're all in sections, so they don't really go too well together. And you can see where I made some lines here, and you kind of fit these together. They do fit somewhat. If I remember this right, I gotta remember how I did this. That's how you fit it in. So it's missing. It is missing a chunk in here, and it's missing a chunk up there. I wish they had made the whole map like this one and sectioned it a little bit better. It does give you Tharbad, the town of Mitrith, or Thalion, which was where the capital was at one time. You have the Barrow-downs up in the north, with the old forest, and Breeze up there. It also has the ruined town of Andrath. You have a port of Siduri, Loandair. Though I always thought Loandair was on the other side of the Enedwith. You also have the Balost. There's the Argons over here, and there is another little fortress minus Grithlin over there, and the town of Annan-Baran, and the Aaron Vorn. So it gives you a lot of different areas, which is really cool. I use this map so much; it's so beaten. Flipping the big map over, you get a city of Tharbad, which is really cool. It gives a population of like 21,000 people at this time, and it makes sense because when Boromir came to find Imladris or Rivendell, he had to cross the fords of Tharbad. Well, the bridge broke during great floods back in the, I'm gonna say, 29th century of the Third Age. There was huge flooding. It might have been earlier. I have to go back to the appendices and look. But the bridges at Tharbad basically collapsed, and there was a dangerous ford. So that's pretty cool. It gives you a view of that. I'm going to leave this one out here because I laminated this one to protect it because it was getting kind of ratty. The second one gives you a geopolitical map. So after the fall of the kingdom, the war that saw the death of the last king in 1409, it split into different little feudal states. It delves into that in the book. The second one gives you the small port city of Siduri, which has a population of like 6,000 people, according to ICE. So this book is from 1987. I bought it in 1988. And on the interior map, you get maps of Vinyalonde and Londare Ineth, what it looked like during Eldarian's time, or the time of the Númenóreans. Vinyalonde was Eldarian's, the Númenórean king, his attempt, and then later Londare Ineth was the Númenórean base that Tar Ministar sent troops to. Okay, you get all the guideline stuff, as always. Introduction overview. I love this because it gives a history of Cardolan. First before the Arnorians, before it was Dunedain. Then during the War of the Elves in Sauron, and the Númenórean intervention, the Arnorian period, and finally to the Kingdom of Cardolan. So they were the second son of the last king of Arnor, was called Thorondor, became the first king of Cardolan. Talks about the little sister wars they have over Amansul and the border. So the border of Cardolan and Arthedain was along the Barrow-downs River, or Brandywine as it's called in the Shire, and along the east-west road. So Bree was part of Arthedain, but the Barrow-downs were part of Cardolan. And Amansul was on the junction of all three states. And the Cardolani border also went up all the way to the last bridge into the what's called the An Eredorith, the Lonely Land. Now what's cool is it gives a disaster in civil war. Calamendal, the fifth king and only child of Turandal, the fourth king, tried to claim the throne of Rudar and waged a war against a Hillman Ruga who had usurped the throne of Rudar. And he claimed the throne through his mother. That's pretty cool. After finally trapping the Rudaran king in his capital of Cameth Bryn, him and his lords were ready to have a second coronation, but orcs of Gundabad came in Ruga's plea. So this is before the Witch King, and descended. Cardolan, the king of Cardolan was killed, and Cardolan went into a state of civil war. That's kind of cool. And then they elected a new king from the line of Isildur, Tarsil. Then it mentions the rise of the Witch King, and then it mentions that King Tarastor gave the regency to the realm to his bastard brother Minalcar, who took the throne when Tarastor died. So it was not of the line of Isildur, not a direct line. The fall of the kingdom was King Ostohar. He died with all of his sons at 1409, which in that war, in the second Great Northern War, when Angmar crushed the forces of Cardolan at Amansul and chased them to the Barrow-downs. And the kingdom then fell into a civil war again with the death of the king and his daughter. They gave him a daughter, and his daughter was kidnapped, killed, whatever. So now we have a regency, which didn't work, and then we have Canotars, or military commanders. But Cardolan as a kingdom ceased to exist, and now is internal strife. Then the Great Plague came and kind of decimated what was left. So from 1645 to the fall of Arthedain, it's but a slow but inexorable decline. The few remaining Dunedain of Cardolan, even the doughty defenders of the sacred barrows, pack it up. They emigrate to Arthedain and Gondor in roughly equivalent numbers. Gondor maintains a garrison in Tharbad and they become almost like a hereditary warrior class in a decaying city. The capital of Saralain, which was one of the successor states to Cardolan, shifts the bulk of its population from the south of the Gwathlo, becoming increasingly submerged in tribal Dunlendings and Befrayan. So they leave Siduri. And the Ariadorians were the last to abandon the lands of Cardolan. There would still be people in Cardolan in certain areas, but they'd be fewer and fewer and sporadic. The Rangers of the North would have defended such small settlements as there were. Down in Sarn Ford, on the Barrow-downs, there would have been some small mannish settlements. So then we get a timeline of everything that happened in the Second and Third Age. And then here you got the kings of the realms in exile. So the kings of Cardolan, starting with Thorondor, Arthedain, which is Aimlath, and then Rudor, which is Eldarion. So it even gives them all the way to various claimants after 1355. Nirnadel in 1412 in Cardolan. Then you have the kings of Gondor up to that point. Next we go into the geography. The rivers are Cardolan. It's basically divided into two things. Minhiriath and Mintirnath. The coast weather table. Cardolan would be warmer than Arthedain, but still fairly cold compared to Gondor. The ecology, so you get flora and fauna. Nothing major there. Birds and flying creatures, reptiles, domestic animals, herbivores, yeah, a lot of stuff there. We got section 5, peoples and cultures. Now the Dunedain of Cardolan are characterized as being different from their brethren in Arthedain, in that the Arthedainians are more conservative in their approach to life, while the Dunedain of Cardolan are more warlike and mercantilist, while the ones of Rudor are more like outcast. And the majority of the Dunedain of Cardolan are only half-breeds, or Turgil. They're lesser Dunedain, and they make up the majority of the Dunedain population, because they're descendants of sailors and settlers and soldiers that conquered the region. By the time of 1640, when this module takes place, there are probably less than 200 pure-blooded Dunedain. Ariadorians make up the majority of the people, descended from the Edain, the ancestral Edain, and Dunedain, who do not migrate over the arid Lune into Beleriand. So they are akin to the Dunedain, but without the gifts. So they're tall, but not as tall as the Dunedain. Then you have the clansmen of Sarah, which is a new phenomenon, as it's made of people of different people. And Sarah was in the southern areas near Siduri. It's one of the down here is Sarah, which is Ariadorians and Dunlendings mixed in together. And it is a kingdom because it kicked out its ruling Dunedain lords. So it's quite different as a society, divided into clans. Then we have the common folk, who are a mix of everything. No real traits like city dwellers and that. And then we have the tribesmen of Dunlendings. Most of them are gathered on the Gwathlo River. And we also have Northmen. The Northmen, they are basically dwelling in what's called Feotar, in the cantons of Feotar, which is in the northern areas near Amansul, then Nenansul. Hobbits, there would be hobbits in the region before they cross into the Shire. The Befrain, who are like the Woses, they inhabit the Erdvorin, which is the dark wood. Then you have wandering elves. Does go into religion. It's not a big idea. Government and power. So when there was a king, he was the first among equals among his feudal lords. And then there would be the Dunedain princes, who were kind of like what you have in Dol Amroth. And there are 4 of these 7 traditional Dunedain princes still hold their ancient feasts and Cardolans, dating back to the Numenorians. The princes of Garithlan and Calantar maintain the ancient tradition. The title can only pass to a male, while the other principalities have had female rulers. So there's only 4 remaining at this time. There's the Herdor of Garithlan, the Herdor of Tynan Gorthad, which is up in the Barrow-downs, Dol Tinar, which is in the center lands, Dol Calantar, which is in the Gwathlo Basin. Then you have the free cantons of Feotar, the Kingdom of Sarah, and a recent one, the Warlord's Realm. So you have to go back to this map to get where all these little countries are. So Dol Tinar is this area, Tynan Gorthad is here, Feotar is here, Dol Calantar is down in here, but also claims area here. Sarah is down there, and the Warlord's Realm is here. The Warlord is a troll that took up residence in some caves and has a large force. So these are the representing factions inside Cardolan. Tharbad is also an independent city-state, though Gondor maintains a garrison there. And then Arthedain on the border would also be an influencing factor. Warcraft, this is what I liked especially. It gives a breakdown of the military during the Kings of Cardolan. And there's a warrior class called the Raggers, which are heavy pikemen, made up of lesser Dunedain. But the sister wars and the civil wars and the wars against Angmar have whittled them down so that they can no longer be a massive army. 1409 was their last great hurrah. You have cavalry and mounted infantry. Only the lords and their bodyguards would have to be mounted, and they'd probably dismount to fight. They would hire mostly mercenaries from Northmen. Militia, by law, all 14-year-olds are subject to military service. You have war bands of tribes and clans, so that's more like the Dunish clans. They would be used. Mercenaries, a lot of Northmen and Dunish mercenaries were used. And it talks about all the mercenary companies. Then it goes into the political situation. So the politics in Minhiriath, the politics in Mintirith, and the politics of Tharbad. None of the princes are strong enough to become king in Cardolan, but they also want to maintain their autonomy. The princes of Tyran Gorthad and Garithlan pay homage to Arthedain, though Tyran Gorthad does it because of the Barrow-downs. They're trying to keep them from being white infested, while Tyran Garithlan just gives lip service. Dol Calantar and Dol Tinareb, they're independents. So it's an interesting situation. Then you got the economy, the road system, the water road, the woolen trade in the Old South. Institutions would be the guilds of Tharbad, fairs and festivals. People of note. Then we go to the description of the princes. This is what I like. You can use these for any era, but this is just a generalities. You've got a region of one area, a princess, an old man. You got the Gondorian Canatar, a leader in Tharbad, the king of Sarah, Pelander, Her of Tur-Tureb, and the warlord, who was hideous experiments in Dol Guldur conducted by the necromancer made the Uruk-hai and the Olag-hai. And the warlord is one of the failures of Troll and Elvish seed, okay? So he's like 7'8", black skin, okay? And then northern Cardolan, you also have Icorian, who's the underage Her of Garithlan, Arthedain, Minaster, who's the third son of King Argelab of Arthedain, and he is the commander on the south bank of Sarn Ford. Then you have some minor characters, including the Oracle of the Befrain. Southern Cardolan, you have Steward of Calantar, one of the clan leaders, Olby, who's leader of unrest in Siduri, Bemakine, who's in Feotar, he's a commander. They have all these different NPCs, which are really cool. Tharbad, they give you a list of NPCs, the guild masters, and some other notables. The mercenary captains, these are cool because you have Tarhad of the Raggers, the pikemen who are called Raggers. He's one of the captains. Daros Redainer, who's a mercenary captain of a cavalry company, who's actually has a claim to the throne of Rudar, hence his name Redainer. You have a dwarven mercenary leader, and then you also have an orcish mercenary leader who has an engineering company. So he's got a couple of list days. So that's kind of cool. They list those. Section 8 deals with Tharbad itself and the city plan. It doesn't really give you a lot of details of what's in the city. It just mentions the south bank, the north bank, and the island. Then we go to Londare and Eneth and Vinyalonde and Londare. So you got to look at the inside covers for these, and it shows gives it their history, backstory, and then it goes into the ruins. So you can dig up the ruins. I've had so many different parties of guys go, like knights, doing this is having them go into these things, try and get as far as they can in the ruins, because a great storm in 1643 exposes the ruins of these places. So it's one of the things you can look up. So you can go all the rooms. There's even a couple of ghosts in here, and there's various ways you can get in, but you have to be extremely lucky to find them and have the right equipment. And even go into Eldarian's house, what's left of it, the basement. So mostly just the foundation stuff is left of these houses. So I thought that was pretty cool, how it goes in the Numenorian period a little. Next up we got Siduri and the towns. Siduri being the town, a port on the Guathlo, just down from the sea. So it would be a trading place. And it gives you a description of various things. In the towns you also got the Mithril, which was once where the Palace of Thalion stood. And you have to look at the back cover insert, which is right there. There's Mithril and there's the Palace of Thalion. And it gives you a description of all the sites there is to see. Okay, next up we get some interesting fortresses. The Argond, which is home of the princes of Dol Calantar, or the princess in this case. It's like 40 miles from Tharbad, and it gives a layout of the castle itself and its floor plans. I thought it was pretty cool, a fortress in Cardolan. Next you get Barrow-Grithlin, which is the ancestral homes of the lords of Dol Grithlin. Pretty cool stuff. You got the basement floor. These two are prominent in the adventures. Other sites, so Old Palace at Thalion. So it gives a description. This is in that town of Mithril. And you can see my little pencil marks where I had guys go into adventure. I've used this book probably more than any other book. I really liked it. Then we have Kreb Durga, which is an ancient Proto-Befrayan ceremonial site. Ardagor, the warlord, the Troll Warlord, he's taken his troops there. So again, there's a whole bunch of trolls in this area. And the idea is to dig them out. So you can see I have all these, the treasury, the troll lair, the warlord's lair, main level, lower level, and the top level. So it's in a hill. And it's all fortified. So I thought it was pretty cool. I've sent many a team here. You can see more of my pencil marks over there. Next you got the adventures. The hunt for the warlord. So this is the one where you have to dig them out. Dig out the trolls. Dig out as many trolls as you can. For Hallis of Tol Tener, he's trying to get rid of the Empire of the Warlord before he dies. That's his dying wish, is to get rid of them. Next one is a Blow for Peace, where you have to, Gondor hires you to find out who's causing trouble in Tharbad, and you have to go to the Argond for that. The Mithril Room, so this is when you use the Vinyalonde and the Londare and Eneth. So you're looking for the mythical Mithril Room. Treachery in Barrow-Grithlin. This is when the underage prince might get killed. So you have to go to that castle. Then there's caravans, gardens, and two-legged curs. So this is one dealing with Siduri, which is in the wake of a great storm. And there's a revolt going on. And get some other adventures. So you have your master encounter table, master beast table, nothing new there. My favorite, the master military table. This is what hooked me. The national army. So you got the army of Saralane, and the clans and tribes that they can call upon. Empire of the Warlord. So when you're talking about trolls, you're talking about anywhere from a troll guard of 16 plus a troll levy of 25 to 35 trolls, plus some mercenaries and some slaves. So you get a whole force to deal with. Tharbad gives Grithlin, Tyrene Gorthad, Feotar, Tener, Calantar. Then you have the mercenary companies. So you have the four main ones, the Steel Riders, the Ranks of Pikes, the Dwarf Warriors, and Forax Violators. Then you have some other companies and brigands who could be hired. Then you have the Daggerim Gondor, the Tharbad, and the Daggerim Aran Arthrad Sarn, so the Royal Army of Arthadan Sarn Fort. So you have all these different mixes. It was so much fun trying to conquer Cardolan. How would you do it? How would you reunite? My policy was simple for the King of Arthedain to send more troops to Sarnford, get Tyrone Gorthad on their side because they're paying for, because they're helping him keep the Barrow-wights out. Enlist all the mercenary companies. I'm trying to establish authority in central Cardolan by taking out Dol Tinereb. Grithlins help out the underage prince in Grithlin, so he's on your side, and then work from there. But I always had a chance every month. There was a 1% chance that Angmar would intervene. Also try and take out the Warlord too was the other one at the same time. It's pretty cool. Then you got all the NPCs, non-player characters you're going to face, and there's quite a bit. And then you have the back section with Mithril and the processional road. So that's the book. That's the Lost Realm of Cardolan, the very first Merc book I bought. It's absolutely my favorite Merc book of the 80s. I like how they fleshed out the history of Cardolan and made it so much more intriguing. Definitely better than the other books so far. Anyone else who has this role-playing book out there, let me know how you guys thought of it. And if you played it, how well it went. And hit that like button, subscribe, send a comment. I'm all ears. Until next time, this has been Roman Daisel. I'm out of here.